And what we're hopeful for is that that goes out into the world.
Yeah.
And this becomes
revolution.
a revolution. That's exactly right.
I hope it becomes a revolution.
Yeah, man.
Because masculinity is in desperate need of one.
Yeah.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoweh's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful ends for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast, part 2 of part 4.
Yeah.
In the overview of the new book, King Me, which, this is the last of this podcast series, and I'm really proud of how this thing lands in terms of the book, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really curious where you want to go in the final chapters.
I really don't want to take anything away from the book in asking you about some of the stories that I read in here. I think I just would like for you to share kind of the overview of, what do you think God intended in giving us children? And yeah, just, I'm not even going to add to that. Just what do you think? And so in this context, knowing what we know now, mm-hmm. right? We're kings in our small K kingdom. We've got a queen at our side, hopefully. Some of us have been through some hard things, right? And we're operating at single dads out there.
Yeah.
Single parents. So, but what do you think God was hopeful for in bestowing these little heirs to the throne to us?
Mm-hmm. I want to say one of the areas, but I'm gonna upgrade it to, I think it is the area that we get to be most like God.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We, from the joy of intimacy, mm-hmm. we create mm-hmm. in the union of the Trinity. We're created in the union of another Trinity, husband, wife, God. Mm-hmm. We create, mm-hmm. And then there's the fatherhood journey, right? Which mm-hmm. is a part of the masculine journey, and it starts even when we're young and how we're fathered.
Sure.
So we talk about we have these terms in house, right? Capital L life. Mm-hmm. Capital L love, and that is those mm-hmm. that's just code for that. God is love,
right?
God is life, and so larger story, mm-hmm. The larger story, which includes both physical and spiritual realms. So there's Father,
yeah.
There's there's a trend even now with Abba, mm-hmm. the chosen, Jesus calls him Abba.
Which is really more like daddy.
Yeah, James
right?
and John call their father Abba. Mm-hmm. So there's this real invitation, and it's made this way. So it's more than an invitation to participate as small f fathers with the capital F Father mm-hmm. in fathering. Mm-hmm. So that's my first swing, I think, SJ. Why?
That's a pretty good swing.
Why did God? Thanks. Why did God share this with us? And I think as it advances, the last thing that comes to mind is what my job was to show my children what walking intimately with the Trinity looked like. And I didn't do that so well. And so that I could, with honor and anticipation, share that job with him, the Father, especially after those formative years when God and Sunday school and concepts of all that is kind of beyond there. But does their dad talk about what it's like to intimately experience and encounter God? Am I able to tell them stories of intimacy with God? Or do I just take them to church?
Right.
And we learn the stories of others who somehow encountered and experienced God. So, that revolution has kind of taken place in my life. And now I am still actively participating with the Trinity at going back after some of those father wounding places in my daughters and in my wife. And so, and, they have and are, kind of coming along with me in that. And so
graciously,
that's
often.
So there's a lot in those two chapters. In Heirs to the Throne, we talk about what does that look like if your children are young and those miles are in front of you. Man, I'm so glad you got this book, and I'm so hopeful that it gives you the some of the manual that maybe our fathers didn't give us, and some of the direction that some masculinity did not bestow upon us. And then, but it's like a lot of things that you can read about, and you can read about a golf swing. You can watch golf videos. You can watch videos now on about anything. I fixed my vacuum the other day.
How about you? Wow.
Watching some guy in Australia who
had the same model.
Who's the vacuum guy?
Yeah.
Welcome to another. And and I put my model number in there, and dang, 7 minutes unscrewing a couple things, and it was kind of like Julia Childs. I mean, something. The fixed vacuum came. The meal came out of the oven in like 15 minutes. So it did take me a little longer. I had to push pause and go back. But so you can learn a lot of things. And when something's broken, that's when we definitely want to, how do I fix this?
So I'm so glad you brought up that kind of an analogy, because I've been sitting here thinking about, the Search and Rescue, The Heart of a Warrior, your previous two books, and then King Me. These are not just designed to be books that you read and say, that was pretty good. It's an invitation to an exploration and a journey, and honestly, work. The work of recovering what has happened to you, uncovering and becoming free from the wounds, vows, and agreements that you live under, becoming aware of those things so that you can become free from them. And I can't think of a better return on that investment than the potential for your relationships with your wife, could be your ex-wife, your children, your stepchildren,
adult children
that are now, they've got a stepdad. I mean, all of these different scenarios. Or maybe you're still together, but your kids are older now. I just have this phrase kind of echoing in my head, and maybe this is a story somebody told me that it went down this way, like a daughter saying to her dad, "Yeah, Dad, I want to talk to you about those things, but you got to do your work first."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that daughter.
Okay. Okay. So that's the encouragement here, guys. This is not a book. You can just pick up and read it and put it back down again.
Yeah.
But what we're really hopeful for with it is this opportunity of reclamation. But you have to do your own work first. You can't just say, well, I read this book and here's the concepts I understand, but I haven't applied them to my life, in parentheses, but I want our relationship to be better.
Yeah. If there's a part in this that says, you need to learn to apologize.
Yeah.
And then you go and just apologize. But then you keep doing the same crap you're doing.
Right. You don't know why you're apologizing.
The apology becomes even a dangling carrot, like, oh my gosh, my dad, he recognizes, and if the apology goes well, but if you keep, it's just if you keep making that same mistake, or you haven't changed, then the apology turns into something less weighty or less valuable. And so
Fool's gold.
To your point, right? How do you do your own work is a great phrase, and what we mean by that is to go with God back in your story, and recover from what you did and didn't get, and don't stay there.
Right.
We want to go forward, and we want to move forward with God, and not make those same mistakes. But when the hard wires and the hardware has been constructed with the help of an enemy in a certain way, it's going to keep operating that way, to use that illustration. So, this is, nothing wrong with some how-tos and some 1, 2, 3s, but this is, I think, a little deeper than that. And there's a philosophy, and there's a way the kingdom works, and you ought to know that as a man, because you're in it.
Yeah.
And your kids are in it, and your wife is in it. And so that's what, by moving towards these chapters later in the book, they're later because now we can talk about,
that's right,
her heart and their hearts. And if we got the elder sages in here, I know what they would say. They love grandfathering.
Oh, man.
Well, I'm not going to get into it, but if I break it down just a minute, it's because you're smarter. Our friends,
yes,
at least, who are moving in orientation, they're doing to and for their grandkids what they probably couldn't do for their children. And we've had conversations with them about, be careful, because your kids may be watching how you're loving and caring for their kids. And if I'm the enemy, oh man, I'm going to whisper, yeah, you didn't get any of that. Yep. And they're not going to applaud you for loving their kids, your grandkids. They're going to, the ache of what they didn't get is going to then surface. And you don't know why they don't start showing up anymore, why they're keeping the grandkids from you. Right. So all of that, when I think about how the enemy plays, he plays according to the rules. He's not cheap shots, maybe, yes, absolutely. But they're all within the game, all within the battle of what how the board was set, how the game is supposed to be played. Yeah. They're playing within the parameters of the game that is the sovereign created life. And the enemy, there's no JV Holy Spirit, there's no JV demons. There is assault, and the crocodiles will get the little one any and every time they can. Yeah. Sometimes the little guys they're the most more effective or deadly or venomous. I mean, of the predators. Yeah, for sure. So that takes me to the last chapter about kings at war, and that's there's a lot of warfare throughout the book, but we had to come back to it, and kind of Bob, my friend who is the editor. It was just, this is how God wanted us to close it with, your kingdom is under fire, under siege, under assault, and it has been long before it was even your kingdom. Yeah. So tell me why you felt like you had to circle back to this. The seriousness, the weightiness of it all. We talked about in the first podcast on these 4 parts, navigating the board and getting to that place where you now king me, you become something else. And now, and there's a peace that's brought from off the board now, and it comes back on, and that empowers you. That is just the best metaphor I can think of when you get parts of your heart back. I don't care if you stack that thing 3 or 4 or 5 pieces high. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. You are now different. You are now able to move differently. And now your objective is to help them move to other side to see healing and training and validation in their lives because you've experienced that.
Right.
And now you can offer that. So this morning, Robin and I are talking before we both had our coffee and we're checking in and what do you got today? What do you got today? And long story short, the moral of this story was there was something that she had done and she was feeling accusation. She was feeling the assault of you always do stupid stuff. I mean, she was hearing that.
Right.
So the question I asked was, "Hun, was that kind of coming up from within you, or was that coming at you?" I think it was coming at me. I said, "Well, that's good."
Yeah.
That means that you've done some work. They're not working in here, but they want to.
They want to get back in there.
So if you sign the agreement, if you sign the papers for that accusation and you take it in and now you house it literally like the FedEx guy or the UPS guy, hey, you need to sign this one.
Mm-hmm.
And you then give it quarter. Mm-hmm. You give it a place. Oh, that package is going to leak. That package is going to grow tentacles.
Gas is going to come out of it.
And it's going to invade other parts of your house. Mm-hmm. And so it was just an example of things that we felt like the reader we needed to push some of these things a little bit later to understand, comprehend, and to give a bit of a break from the warfare that's in the different stages of the masculine journey, things that we see common in the different stages. What the enemy is going to do something to a 30-year-old a little differently than to a 13-year-old. Oh, it's still for the same objectives. And usually the 30-year-old, it's just the driving deeper what they did when he was 13.
Yeah, it's a variation on a theme, though.
Yes, well said. That's a great
there's
way
no
to say
doubt.
it. So
the other thing that occurs to me, Michael, about having that at the end, I think that's great. I think it's brilliant. When you're going through this book, you're unearthing some things. You're stirring some things up, hopefully. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we're hopeful for with it, is that some things will be stirred up, some things can be reclaimed and reworked. And when that happens, when you're stirring, when you're just kind of running on autopilot and you're, false selfing it all the time or most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the enemy has his plays and he does the things he does, and it's kind of an autopilot almost.
Routine.
Yeah.
The
routine. But when you start to reclaim some things and rework and have a different and a deeper understanding of how things work and how it's worked in your own life, you've got to be prepared.
Yeah.
Because the enemy, oh man, this guy is figuring some stuff out. Mm-hmm. We got to change up our game, right? We got to, run the flea flicker or whatever now instead of just running it up the gut on this guy because
that doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
That doesn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's great.
So foul spirits. The way the kingdom of darkness operates, that's in that last chapter. And then, just to give one more encouragement, it's in the warfare chapter 17, that I felt like it was time to address this area of forgiveness. And what does that look like? Mm-hmm. Being forgiven, it's a tactic, it's a weapon in warfare.
It really is.
And what happens in the spiritual realm, and it cannot be accomplished insincerely, and that's okay. So don't do it insincerely.
Right. Right.
It's not something that you have to do without God's help. It's something that you can really only do with His help. Mm-hmm. What does that look like to and the work of recovery? The work of identity, the work of getting the lies out, getting the blockage out so you can receive love. Mm-hmm. All of that work, actually, 14 chapters of it is the work that needs to be done, I think, before you can really accomplish forgiveness.
Yeah, and I opened it up to that chapter, and I saw very important in capital letters. So it drew my eye, right? Mm-hmm. The process of deliverance doesn't start with going head to head with demons. It starts with healing.
Yeah.
Right. So that start with don't try to let's do a head to head and demons be gone and all that. You got to go back.
Yeah.
Before you can move forward. And the healing, the forgiveness is a huge, powerful weapon.
Yeah.
For good. And then if there's some things lingering around, then you've narrowed it down.
Yeah.
And you understand your adversary a whole lot better.
And you've taken away their legal position.
Right. The contracts.
And if you've lived in this world long, you understand the legality of your signature. You understand the legality of the loan you took out, and there's certain purchases that there's a lot of paperwork.
Right.
I mean, to get a house or a car.
Oh yeah. You're getting writer's cramp.
You're going to spend an hour, if not two, and you're signing papers that are declaring that this is your signature and I'm signing these papers.
Right.
In the spiritual realm, SJ, it is very, 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 very similar.
It is.
And so when you make agreements and you sign those contracts, there's an enemy. They have a warranty system. They have a service department. They're gonna service those messages and keep them working in a believer's life. We're not talking about demon possession, but we are talking about being, the spirit of guilt, shame, accusation, diminishment, discouragement, depression. These aren't just in, the psychology handbook.
Yeah, they're not all made up in your head.
They're witnessing these and describing these conditions. And in the spiritual realm, there's actually agents that operate within those spaces.
That's right.
And so there's a little bit, I think it's advanced warfare, especially if you're a Christian who really has had little, if no exposure to how does this work. I don't think it's, pea soup and, the
Exorcist movies.
Exorcist, or other, Hollywood depicts this and indie movies depict this more than a lot of our churches.
Sure.
Tell the stories of, I'm not talking about the haunting of something or someone. I'm just saying that there is a spiritual realm that seems to be more evident in Hollywood, that they tell the horror stories than we're willing or able to explore in our Sunday mornings. And so hopefully, again, it's a direction, it's a compass, it's some clarity and definition as to how that works. And from last disclaimer, there's so many things in King Me that were learned and borrowed from so many teachers, and so Charles Kraft and the different books on Neil Anderson.
Yeah, Victory Over the
Darkness.
Yeah.
Those were my teachers for 10, 20, 30 years. And so, the Spiritual Handbook of Warfare, which is not a handbook, these things were extremely helpful to me learning how to be a good king. And then there's the practice. It's not just academic. And now Ephesians 6 looks totally
very
different.
Yeah.
And power and authority are throughout the Gospels, throughout the epistles, and very, very critical to understanding what Jesus did through the cross and how in Matthew 28 he says, and now all power and authority has been given to me.
Yeah.
And you got to go, wait a minute. What do you mean? He reclaimed it. He gave us the victory over sin.
Right.
He redeemed us.
Right.
It's all a power move.
Yeah.
It's all an authority move. And so...
And if you want to know one of the greatest weapons, go to 1 Corinthians, right?
Love, absolutely.
Of course.
It's the greatest one, love. And therefore forgiveness, where that's not happening. You're going to get me started back in part one. But I want to finish with this because it's really, really important from Matthew 28. Then he does the wildest thing, with the power and the authority that he's reclaimed, he gives it to his friends and says, now go. Go, my friends, and make more friends. Go, my disciples, make more. The things you've heard me teach and say. This is what Paul says to Timothy. It's your turn. I've given you what you need. I've equipped you. I've encouraged you. I'm proud of you. You can do this.
Yeah.
And then and be careful out there.
Right. Go start your own little kingdom.
I mean,
and be careful while you're doing it.
Be careful.
Yeah.
And so all of that in a bag of chips.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
King Me. So
yeah, man.
Thanks for letting me talk about it a little bit.
Well, man, it's been great. I've really loved this series. I've had an opportunity to be a part of the journey, and
there's some SJ stories in there.
A few years in the making, and man, it's really been fun and a joy to witness you kind of journeying through it. So
thanks.
I think you've really made an impact on certainly all of your friends and the teammates here at Zoweh through your decision to take this journey and exploration. And what we're hopeful for is that that goes out into the world.
Yeah.
And this becomes
revolution.
A revolution. That's exactly right.
I hope it becomes a revolution.
Yeah, man.
Because masculinity is in desperate need of one.
Yeah.
And I think about our guys in the 101st Airborne, when you see Band of Brothers and he says, I just got so tired of seeing my friends get killed.
Yeah.
I think this is part of something that's being released from the kingdom of God to the hearts of men, hands and hearts of men. And there's some other ones that are in some incredibly well-positioned places. So I think men, I think the Father's coming after us, and I think there's a lot of goodness waiting for us when we sign up, when we go to those draft boards and say, because those guys didn't know what was really going on in the war. They wanted to fight. They wanted to enter into this representation of their country, and we're kingdom citizens. And so I don't want to underachieve. I just don't want to underachieve in this place.
Right.
And I want men to have the ability to, achieve what is theirs in the kingdom, and their position, their rank, their goodness, and appropriately recover these stages so that they can become the wholehearted men. We could see this thing turn around in about 10 years if
I'm hopeful for it.
Me too.
More and more men get healed. I mean, the
landscape changes.
Yeah, we could start a whole nother podcast episode right now just talking about, what we're hopeful for.
Yeah.
Because we're hopeful for it in our own lives.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, King Me by Michael Thompson. Visit Amazon. It's available there. And check out kingmebook.com for some more information if you still want to hear a little bit more about it before you pick it up.
And book tours have started.
Book tours are starting. That's right. The first one's going to be right here in Raleigh-Durham, where Zoweh is based. And so, check our website for that too. It's up on the King Me Book website.
Yeah, Ohio, Cincinnati area, Atlanta area in the fall. There's a lot of D.C. around Father's Day.
That's right.
So those are the ones I can remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Wilmington, Johnson City, Tennessee.
That'll be great.
Little crew up in Tennessee.
Is a beautiful country.
We're going to go spend some time with those guys. Yeah. So,
it's not his own country, but
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a like, subscribe, share. Whatever podcast platform you're on, take the appropriate action so that this message in Zoweh can be found. Thank you so much for your support. And if you're interested in financial support, we're a crowd-funded organization. Visit zoweh.org/give. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. See you next time on the Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoweh.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoweh on YouVersion Bible app Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoweh on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.